why on earth should we consider a fetus a person? I mean, it can basically do nothing, right? Legitimately, thank you for asking. I think this is a really important question. When I try to figure out what grounds my passion for equal rights, I try to make the idea kind of tangible in my head. I imagine this equal right to life community. There's this community where every entity inside of it deserves to be equally protected from violence, and everything outside of it doesn't. Everything inside is essentially a person. I'm pretty sure we'd all agree that all human adults and human newborns, regardless of their race, their gender, their sexual orientation, their whatever characteristic, they should all be in the equal right to life community. And squirrels, well, you can't, torture them for fun or something. They aren't in the community. So what is it that's giving certain entities access into the community? I've asked that question to thousands of pro-choice people, and there's always one of two problems with their answer. Either the answer they give would kick human newborns out from having access to equal rights, or their answer would mean that squirrels would also have the same as us. Self-awareness, for example, would kick newborns out from having equal rights, and something more basic like the minimal ability to perceive the world around you would give squirrels access to the community too. I think really the only thing that makes sense is that something like our human nature is what's granting access to the equal right to life community. And so to consider the unborn after our final conclusion, they share that same human nature. So I think they must be included. The unborn, therefore, must be persons. Is bodily autonomy more important than the right to life? I'm on my second hand over here. If bodily autonomy is more important than the right to life, then there's a major issue with conjoined twins. Even though one part of the shared body may only respond to one twin, what happens to their shared body affects them both. And if one twin may not unilaterally decide to remove her sister from their shared body, thereby killing her, then bodily autonomy is not more important than the right to life. Bodily autonomy is incredibly important. It just doesn't grant the right to kill another person. If the question you're asking is whether an embryo is a valuable person like you or I, that's the first video I made in this series. But if you're asking whether an embryo is biologically human, that one's pretty easy. It's time for top coat. There are basically three things that we know biologically speaking about the unborn. We know they are living, they are human, and they are whole. Let's break this down one at a time. We know the unborn are alive because they have the characteristics of living things. Namely, they're going through cellular reproduction, they're metabolizing food into energy, and they're reacting to stimuli. We also know that they're human because they have uniquely human DNA, and we also know that living things reproduce after their own kind only. So two cows do not get together and have a duck. That's just not how that works. And finally, we know that the unborn are whole human organisms because that's how biologists classify an organism. There's multiple parts working together for the good of a whole. A skin cell is part of the organism that is me, but the unborn is its own organism with its own parts. And nothing essential has been added to the unborn from the time of fertilization except for adequate nutrition and a proper environment, which are the exact same two things I still need now to keep growing to maturity. So if I'm an organism now and nothing has been added to me since fertilization except for adequate nutrition and a proper environment, then I must have been that same exact organism at fertilization because those same two things are the only things that keep getting added to me. So that's your biological evidence in a nutshell. The unborn is living, it is human, and it is whole.